it's not like President Trump's not doing anything about it at all, right? Because what we've seen is he proposed a project blueprint. He's proposing a lot of things on the executive action side. So in a scenario where you end up with different ideas coming out from the Democratic side, be it one or both houses, and different ideas from the administration, I wonder if you end up with a stalemate where nothing may actually get done.
Which would actually be the best case scenario, right, for investors, clearly.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So the only tangible thing you end up with on drug pricing then is, as we roll into January, whether President Trump will allow big pharma to take the price increases, or will he again tweet and make them roll it back? Because that's what happened a couple of months ago.
You know, in one of the presidential scrums, so to speak, he had mentioned that he had called a number of drug company CEOs. They know who they are. We know that he's called Ken Frazier of Pfizer, and I'm wondering if you know of who else he has called.
So Ian Reid at Pfizer, the CEO, had a very clear exchange. Correct. So Ian Reid at Pfizer had a very clear exchange with President Trump, and the understanding among investors has been that when Pfizer proposed the price increases in July timeframe, I believe, President Trump tweeted, and then there was an agreement of sorts reached where President Trump agreed to do something about drug rebates, and in a scenario where nothing's done on rebates, Pfizer might put the price increases back on in January. So we've seen nothing happen on that side. So presumably, we're heading in a direction where price increases do get put back on, not only by Pfizer, but a bunch of other big pharmas and biotechs as well.
What have you noticed about drug pricing, Umer? I mean, we hear reports that drug prices are still going higher for various key drugs. I mean, do you feel like the industry is, quote unquote, behaving better under the threat of action from a Republican-controlled House, Senate, and White House?
That's a great question. I think over the last 3 years, while you guys have been reporting on this, I have to admit the three things have clearly changed. Number one, you no longer see 20%, 25% pricing. That never happens. It's always single digits, number one. Number two, you're also seeing no multiple price increases a year anymore. It used to be you take some in January, then again in July, so that's not happening either. And finally, third, there's increasingly a lot of pushback at the time drugs get priced at the first place, because that's the time when you can really come in at a high price, so you don't need price increases. So there's a lot more discipline there and tying value to what your clinical data is.
What about the tie-ups of healthcare providers, not providers, insurers, and the pharmacy benefit managers? How does that untangle itself under the various scenarios?
That's a great question. So this has been the biggest source of confusion for the pharma community, because you have seen certain drugs with high amounts of rebates continue to do better both on market share as well as versus newer drugs with far better data, only because the drugs with higher price tend to have better market share and better economics for the PBMs. So it ends up in a very gray area with not a lot of clear visibility, and it's an area, in my opinion, even Congress hasn't really quite figured out. So no one's really opened up the books to really understand where the rebates are being kept, where they're being passed on, or are rebates being kept by PBMs and other line items which may not necessarily be called rebates.